Alright, welcome back to another video, guys. This week we are facing Smiefelham and Manchewtle City in the AFG Pokemon Draft League. I'm going to go over the teams. First of all, we have Victini, Keldeo, Sandy Shocks, Togekiss, Empoleon, Shaman, new member Terra Armaldo, Porygon 2, Beedrill, and Volbeat. And we are up against Mega Blastoise, Raging Bolt, Infernape, Pecharunt, Tinkaton, Gligar, Spidops, Ogerpon Cornerstone, Snorlax, and Sneasel. And Spidops and Sneasel are the Terra captains. You can see the Terra types on screen here. I'm going to go over what I'm expecting him to bring before I go into our team. This matchup, in my opinion, is not super great for us. He has a couple things that we really just don't switch into too great. First off, Raging Bolt, very hard to switch into. Our only Dragon Resists are Empoleon and Togekiss. And obviously those are weak to Electric, so there's not much we can do there. So we're going to have to find some other answer or pivot into Raging Bolt on our team. Infernape, also we have basically no resists into. Our fire resists are Keldeo and Victini. And if I try to run defensive Victini, he can just run Earthquake. So we pretty much have no switch-ins to Infernape either, so we're going to have to come up with something for that. Pecharunt is very hard to switch into. It also eats the physical hits super well from things like Victini and Beedrill, which makes those really tough to bring in my opinion, because it can just recover spam and then Malignant Chain, stuff like that. Tinkaton is alright. I don't think it's the best matchup because of things like Victini, Sandy Shocks, maybe Armaldo. Even Keldeo can do a lot to it, so I don't think it's the best option, but it's alright. Could be Spadef, get rocks up, something like that. Gligar is not good except for Sandy Shocks. Sandy Shocks is very good into his team, as you will see. And Gligar is kind of his only response to that, so I could see Gligar coming, but otherwise it doesn't make a ton of sense. It could hazard stack and just be there for the Sandy Shocks, so kind of 50-50 on whether or not that comes. Spidops I definitely do not think is coming. I don't really see any role for it here. Webs aren't super impactful. I have hazard removal. Also competitive on Empoleon would be really annoying for him. Ogerpon Cornerstone, very good. We don't really have switch-ins. You'll see we have one thing that kind of switches into it, but for the most part, Rock is super unresisted, and our three rock resists are all either weak or neutral to Grass, so that is really tough as well. We do have Snorlax as well on his team, which I think is definitely coming because it just destroys Victini. Victini can't do anything to Snorlax. There's pretty much no set that I can run. I was really trying to find something that would be good into Snorlax besides just U-turn spam. But if he's Rocky Helmet, which I think he might be, then that's really tough as well. So Snorlax is a great matchup here. Thick Fat is super annoying. But if I don't bring Victini, which you'll see in a second if I'm not, Snorlax might not be quite as useful, but I do think he's going to bring it specifically because it beats my best Pokemon. And finally, he has Terra Sneasel. Terra Sneasel's not too bad. Maybe Terra Fighting could go pretty hard, but I think he just has better options. If I had to guess, I think he's going to bring Mega Blastoise, Raging Bolt, Infernape, Pecharunt, Ogerpon Cornerstone, and Snorlax, and then potentially Sneasel, but I don't think he has room, and then Gligar if he's really scared of Sandy Shocks. But Spidops and Tinkaton I think are pretty unlikely. So yeah, let's get into our team here. Alright, getting into the team. First off, we have Shaman. Shaman is our Raging Bolt answer. It has Toxic, it has Leech Seed, it has Substitute, it has Earth Power. We are going to be faster than this Raging Bolt always because of our speed investment. And we can sub on Draco Meteor to try and reduce his special attack. If he's Calm Mind, we can Toxic, we can Leech Seed, Earth Power to hit it super effectively. Earth Power also is just very good into his team in general. He doesn't have a ton of ground resists except things like Gligar and Spidops, which I don't think are going to come. So it's kind of the only move we need. Toxic, Leech Seed, Sub, and Leftovers. Just be a bulky guy. It can also switch into Blastoise, which is nice. Live hits, Toxic, Leech Seed, Sub, Stall, etc. It's just good. It's kind of our Spadef answer here because we don't have anything else to deal with Raging Bolt, so I do think it does pretty good work. Next up is Keldeo. Keldeo is rocking Vacuum Wave, Surf, Calm Mind, Secret Sword with the leftovers. We are max special attack modest. That's mostly because I think he's going to bring Scarf Infernape, and then I don't really need to be timid otherwise on the Keldeo. Calm Mind is just a solid move to click. Potentially, if he wants to go for Thunderclap on Raging Bolt, I can Calm Mind on that, kind of predicting it. And then Vacuum Wave is going to do a bit more damage and goes before Thunderclap on the next turn. Vacuum Wave is also really good into things like Ogerpon. It's good into Sneasel. It's just nice to have priority. It can even do quite a bit of damage to the Infernape as well. So I really like Vacuum Wave here. And then Surf is just our good stab. It hits things like Pecharunt because Pecharunt obviously is immune to Secret Sword. Secret Sword is really good. It hits Snorlax. It hits Raging Bolt, Blastoise. It hits everything. It's kind of the only moves we need. And yeah, Keldeo should be pretty good here. He does have some switch-ins to it. But he does have to make some reads because Surf and Secret Sword hit things differently. Like if you go into Blastoise, you don't want to take a Secret Sword. If you go into Pecharunt, you don't really want to take a Surf, etc. So it is hard to pivot into, and we can potentially go for Calm Mind and get some boosts. Next up, we have Porygon 2. Porygon 2 is the tried and true max HP, max defense, bold. We are Discharge, Ice Beam, Foul Play, Recover. Pretty standard. We are Analytic to do extra damage, being slow. We do one-shot a Ogerpon with Foul Play after a Swords Dance. Ice Beam does over half. This is our main Ogerpon answer because we can live 2 Ivy Cudgels. We can't live 2 if he Swords Dances, but I'll switch it in. He'll Swords Dance, I'll Foul Play. If he's taking some chip, he'll die. If not, he'll go down to Sturdy, which is useful, and then we can always clean it up with Vacuum Wave. So I'm not too worried there. But Porygon is basically just here for that Ogerpon. We don't have great switch-ins, and Porygon is the switch-in. Next up, we have good old Armaldo, our new Terra Captain this week. He is rocking max attack, he is rocking 200 speed, and Liquidation, Earthquake, Rock Polish, Swords Dance, and Terra Ground. Armaldo is here to hopefully lead and just put some holes in his team. If he doesn't lead Ogerpon, the Armaldo is really good. We just Terra Ground and hit something super effective. Well, not necessarily super effective, but for a ton of damage. We could also Swords Dance turn 1, depending if we see something like a Snorlax. The Pasho Berry is there for Blastoise. We can always live Flip Turn or Water Pulse and hit it with a massive Earthquake, Terra Ground boosted. And if we somehow get in the position where we can Rock Polish and Swords Dance and we have some chip, this thing actually just full sweeps, so that's cool too. We don't really need anything except Earthquake and Liquidation. Earthquake hits everything, and Liquidation hits the Gligar if he does decide to bring that. So yeah, lead Armaldo, put some big holes in his team. That's the plan. If he leads Ogerpon, we are going to need to switch out because we can't really live. But otherwise, Armaldo looks quite good here. So excited to try out our new Terra Captain. Next up, we have Sandy Shocks. Sandy Shocks is max special attack, 180 speed. We are timid nature, 76 HP. Sandy Shocks doesn't need to be too fast. We're just outspeeding the Tinkaton if that's max speed lead or something like that. So we can Earth Power. I don't think he's going to have hazards because Tinkaton and Gligar really is only good hazards, and I don't think he's going to bring either of them. He might, but if he does, we can lead accordingly and try and pressure them so they don't get hazards up. Or we can just lead Sandy Shocks, but I think we'll probably lead Armaldo and just go for that Earthquake. But Sandy Shocks is very good. He does not switch into Earth Power and Volt Switch at all unless he has Gligar. So again, that's kind of the reason I think he may bring it. But otherwise, we're just Volt Switch, Earth Power, double hazards. His removal is Blastoise, but if it has to Rapid Spin, we get some nice momentum, so I'm okay with that. And also, we can't really switch it in on this to Rapid Spin, because I can just do a ton of damage to it. So this is looking really good, and potentially could be good end game if he doesn't have those hazards up, and I can live some kind of hit, go for Earth Power, Volt Switch, and do some big damage, and live the hit in return. So I'm expecting Sandy Shocks to be very good unless he brings Gligar, and then it's looking pretty bad, honestly. But I'm kind of just making the read that he's not going to bring Gligar here. Finally, we have Empoleon. Empoleon is very bulky. We have just enough special attack to kill Infernape with Surf and live via the Chople Berry if he is close combat. We also have Iron Defense in case Raging Bolt is down in the late game, and we can try and get some Iron Defenses up and win that way, because the Pecharunt doesn't really want to give us competitive boosts for potentially lowering our Spadef with Shadow Ball or Parting Shots. We also have Flip Turn and Roost for longevity if that Infernape goes down earlier, and we are Iron Defensing up. And then Flip Turn again also if Infernape is dead or it is already weakened, like -1 defense from close combat, and we can just kill it with Flip Turn. We will do that. We didn't really need any other moves, so yeah, Empoleon's just here for the Infernape. Switch in, hopefully not on a close combat, then the next turn take a close combat and kill it with Surf. So again, we don't really have much Infernape counterplay. I'm very worried about it, but this is kind of the best that I could come up with. So yeah, that is our team for week 3 of the AFG Pokemon Draft League, and I am playing here soon, so let's get into the match. Alright everybody, we are back here for the battle. I just finished playing, and I'm going to go over the replay so we can see what happened here. So looking at the teams, let me just switch these around. You can see he did not bring the Infernape, which is extremely surprising. I feel like Infernape was just crazy into my team, but instead did bring Sneasel. Didn't see the Gligar, which is great for Sandy Shocks, and otherwise brought the 5 that we expected. So yeah, let's get into the battle. We are just going to lead that Armaldo that we talked about earlier and see how the match goes from there. So we are going to see lead Ogerpon into the Armaldo, which is the one thing I did not want to see. We did not want to stay in here and take a Power Whip or a Ivy Cudgel. So we are just going to go into that Porygon, which is our check to the Ogerpon. He's going to lead Trailblaze here, which is not a big deal. I can just go for Foul Play, Discharge, or Ice Beam. Decided to go for the Ice Beam just to get some damage on that thing. I go into Armaldo and the Snorlax. I did expect a Toxic here, but I didn't want Keldeo to get Toxic. I was okay with the Armaldo getting Toxic because I'm just going to go Terra Ground, Swords Dance here, and get a huge hit off on the next turn. And we do have that Pasho Berry to live a hit from Blastoise if he wants to go into it. So you are going to see that is what I do here. Terra Ground, Swords Dance. We're not going to be able to outspeed the Blastoise, but we are Pasho Berry, so we are going to get a ton of damage off. We do 96%, which is awesome. Getting damage to this Blastoise is huge. We can just freely Volt Switch out here or Earth Power. I decided to Earth Power because I felt like Sandy Shocks just has a good matchup into things, and I was okay like leaving it in instead of Volt Switching out and had to have something else in. So we do just Earth Power here, which is great. He goes into Snorlax, and now we can freely Volt Switch out. I'm going to Volt Switch out into Keldeo because I feel like Keldeo can live these hits pretty well. I don't really want to go into anything else. And let's see what he goes for. He goes for Body Slam, doing 71%, which is insane, by the way. I did not expect that to do more than half or even close to it. So I did calc this. This was Choice Banded, so we know he's locked into that. And this was a tough turn. It was either Surf or Secret Sword for me. Surf was expecting him to switch out into Pecharunt. I didn't want to Secret Sword because he might just get a free switch into that, but I thought Secret Sword was pretty obvious. I decided not to risk the Keldeo because if he does stay with the Snorlax, it's really bad. So I do go for Secret Sword. He switched into Ogerpon actually, which is great for me. We put him down to his Sturdy, and we can just Vacuum Wave the next turn, which we do. He does not respect the Vacuum Wave, and we get a free kill on the Ogerpon, which is awesome. Now Porygon can kind of check something else. We can use it a bit more freely. We do see Dragon Tail on the Raging Bolt, which is crazy. I was so sure this was just going to be Calm Mind, Draco Meteor, Thunderclap, Volt Switch, or Thunderbolt, but he is Dragon Tail, which is interesting. It puts us out into Empoleon, which obviously is not something we want out on the Raging Bolt. So we are going to go back into our Shaman and see what he wants to go for. He does miss Thunder Wave, which is nice. I mean, we have Natural Cure, but it could have prevented us from clicking moves and getting paralyzed, which is great. I subbed there expecting a Dragon Tail or a Thunder Wave because we live it, which is awesome. We get free HP back with the Leech Seed. The next turn I go for Toxic. He does go into Petron, which has been unfortunate, but we can either get a free Earth Power or Leech Seed off on this guy before we get attacked with Malignant Chain. He does go for Hex, which is interesting. I didn't think the set had room for Hex. Things like Recover, Shadow Ball, Malignant Chain, Nasty Plot was kind of what I was thinking. You could run Parting Shot, but it's a bit risky into the Empoleon. So yeah, we see Hex there. I am faster than Petron, so I can just go for another substitute, which is what I do, which works out great into the Sneasel. I decided just to go for Earth Power to gauge damage on this. I also didn't want to Leech Seed or Toxic in case he was Substitute. That would be really bad, this thing getting a sub up, so I was just going for damage here. So I think it was the right play. We can freely go into Empoleon, hoping he doesn't click a fighting move here. He does SD, which is very scary. And we're going to see Dynamic Punch. I have never seen anybody go for this in my life. It is a very powerful fighting move, but has a 50% chance to hit, but a 100% chance to confuse. I've never seen anyone click this, but he clicked it, and he confused me, and he got the confusion. So we're getting a little worried here. Luckily, on the next one, he does miss. We were going to eat that, and that was going to be a big problem. But we break free and are able to get a Surf off, which is awesome, because now this thing dies to Vacuum Wave. Thank God. This was a tough turn, actually. I wasn't sure if he was going to switch into the Petron or not, so I kind of wanted to Surf. But it was too risky. I just lose to this thing if he stays in and decides to get damage or try and sack this thing. But he does know I have Vacuum Wave, so I was pretty sure he was going to switch, but I was not willing to risk it. And we are going to see just Terra Ice Shard to get some chip. We are able to kill this with Vacuum Wave. And Sneasel is down. I opted just go for a Surf here because Sandy Shocks right now is looking crazy into his team, and getting chip on this is perfect. Keldeo is terrible into Raging Bolt via Thunderclap, and I didn't really care for it too much at this point. I felt like Sandy Shocks was enough to win the game, so I'm just getting my chip there. He kills me with Malignant Chain. This is the freest Earth Power of all time. We do kill Blastoise. He has to bring in Snorlax here. It's the only thing that can likely live. Raging Bolt maybe if he's super bulky. But we do not die to Draco Meteor, even if he crit me, because I am Focus Sash at this point. And I do want to preserve my Focus Sash, so I go out into the Porygon, which is not really needed anymore. And we see Hammer Arm, which is banded, so he is locked into that. And I can just freely recover spam, because as long as he doesn't crit me, he is going to probably miss eventually, because this thing is not the most accurate move in the world. So I do just recover spam here, hoping that he's going to miss one. He keeps reducing his speed, which does not matter. And he misses one. So the next turn I go for Foul Play and knock that thing out. Luckily, we are now full HP. We don't have great switch-ins to this because we don't want to bring Sandy Shocks right in. I wish I had Teleport on this thing. It'd be really nice, but I do not. So I am just fishing for Discharge Paralysis. He does Malignant Chain. He does hit the Confusion. I do get confused immediately. Unfortunate. I would have liked to try and snag a Para. Parting Shot was a great play. I didn't think he could run Parting Shot into the Empoleon this week, but unlucky. He gets a nice switch in there on the Discharge. He's going to Draco on my Recover. I don't get confused, which is awesome. At this point, I switch out into Shaman to try and get on the Raging Bolt, but he makes a great double into Pecharunt. So I'm going to have to go right back into Porygon here, which at this point I'm really just trying to sack off. There's not much Porygon can do. I don't really care about it. He is going to Parting Shot out again on my Discharge, which is a nice play there. And we are just going to go for an attack. We don't know yet if he has Thunderclap. We see it there. He does have Thunderclap. So we're going to go into Sandy Shocks. We do crit this, which is potentially relevant. I have some bulk. I don't know how much Draco Meteor would have done. I have to double check this next turn as well, but got a Draco off. I'm assuming it does about 70%, something like that. So how much was Malignant Chain doing here? Because this did not kill the Pecharunt. Malignant Chain, oh, it was only doing 18. So If I didn't crit the Raging Bolt, he would get a Draco off, and he would have to Malignant Chain, and he'd have to get the Poison plus Confusion to beat me. He could Hex. I don't think Hex is really doing any damage either, so it's kind of his only play is living the crit, or not getting crit rather, and then Malignant Chain and poisoning me and getting the Confusion. So it seemed like his only out. I might have died to the poison. Again, it's hard to tell from how much Draco was doing. I didn't look at any calcs for that, so we do end up just winning this game. We get the Earth Power and the Pecharunt, and we are up to 3-0, which is awesome. Very excited about that. And we are going into week 4. I'm not sure exactly who I'm playing. I hope you all like the new graphics for the videos. I will be back for week 4, whenever that is, sometime next week, likely on the weekend. So we'll probably be going about a week and a bit without an upload. But I will be back next week. So hope you all enjoyed the video, and catch you later.